Hello and welcome to Art and Self. I'm Cindy Ingram, your host and the founder of Art Class Curator, the Curated Connections Library, and the Art and Self Connection Circle. This is a podcast where we experience the range and depth of what it means to be human, seen through our connections and conversations about works of art. These art conversations are here to show you that art is here for you as a catalyst, a challenger, a coach, and a comfort. Before we get started, take a moment to fill up your lungs with a deep breath. Connect with your body and your mind and your spirit, and get ready to discover what art has to show you. Hello, everybody. I am excited to be back with another episode of Art and Self. And when I envisioned this new podcast format, I envisioned having every week be a different type of person with all different types of people doing all different types of work with all different types of passions. And today's episode really fills that brief. Today, I have Taylor Posey on the podcast, and I met Taylor in an online business group for women business owners. And the first time I met her, I saw immediately what a huge, kind heart she had. And then when I learned that she is an aspiring sex coach and a dominatrix, I was really inspired to want to learn more about her and what she's all about. And what a great way to do that is through a work of art. So if you are a teacher or a parent, you might want to put in headphones today. Don't listen to this one around your kids because she is a dominatrix and we will be talking about that. So just a warning there that this is probably not for your little ears that are near you. But this conversation was really enlightening for me. I learned so much and I had such a new understanding of something I didn't really know a lot about. And it was just a fantastic discussion. So I really hope you enjoy it as much as I did. So without further ado, here is my conversation with Taylor Posey. I'd love to welcome Taylor Posey to the podcast. Welcome, Taylor.
Hi, Cindy. How are you doing?
Great. I'm a little bit nervous because of our conversation
I love
today.
it when they're nervous.
Oh God, y'all are gonna hear me awkward. Y'all are gonna hear me awkward laugh a lot of times today, and let me just tell you why. Taylor, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us what you do.
So I am a female dominatrix, femdom, female dominant, however you want to say it, and aspiring intimacy and sex coach. And so, I spank people, tie them down, tickle them relentlessly, all sorts of very fun things.
And I thought that would be perfect for this podcast because sex is a theme in so much art throughout all of art history in all cultures. But it is something that we don't necessarily, as a society, feel comfortable talking about. So I am going to push through this. Last night I was like, what did I do? Why did I do this? What did I get myself into?
I feel like that happens a lot. Like I'll meet submissives online and they're like, I want a dom. And I'm like, okay, let's do this for a week. And they get through, they're like, what have I done? Oh no. It's a common thing. Right. It's fine. I'm comfortable with it.
Good. Yeah. So you will help me not feel...
I will comfort you through the discomfort.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thankfully we have the art to talk about because I am very comfortable talking about art. So I'm going to show you 4 works of art. And I want you to pick one, the one that really captivates you.
Okay.
All of them have plenty to talk about. But whatever one really draws you in and makes you want to explore it more, that's the one that gives you that sort of emotional reaction.
I love options.
Yes. And I have 3 of them are actually from the same artist. I haven't done that before, but this artist is like perfect for our conversation. So you'll see why when I show you them. All right. So your first choice is But You Never Wanted Me by Tracy Emin. I could be saying her name wrong. Could be Emin, E-M-I-N. The second, the 2, 3, and 4 are all the same artist. The artist is Natalie Frank. This one is called Up the Stairs.
Wow.
This one I have two views of because it's an entire wall. Um, and this is called couple one. So it's a big wall with like a flower paint wallpaper and then the paintings right in the middle. So here's a close up of the painting.
Yeah.
And then the fourth option is Domina 3 by Natalie Frank. Any of them drawing you in?
Oh, they're all so good. I mean, I've got to go with this one though.
Okay. That's what my guess was what you were going to choose. She had there was another one. There was Domino 1. I didn't see Domino 2 anywhere. But there has to be. So this is a common theme in her work, the
Very cool.
DOMs. So tell me why you chose this one. What drew you in?
Well, this is a very comfortable image to me. I am not the leather and latex dom, mainly because I am what I like to lovingly refer to as extra thick. But this man is here, and I know that man. Like I know that man. I've played with that man. He looks like he's uncomfortable. You would look at him right now and think, oh, she's pulling his hair. She has her nice thick juicy thighs wrapped around his neck, and she's even got the pointy toed latex or leather boots. So she looks so harsh in what she's doing, but look at his face and how relaxed he is. What she's doing is one of the most loving and selfless things you can do for that man.
Wow. Okay, so let's describe this because I want you to tell me more about what you just said too. But before we get into that, we're going to describe it. Listeners, you can always find these um, links to the images on the show notes, but please don't look at them while you're driving. And also, I normally put the show notes on my site, Art Class Curator. These show notes will only be on the podcast platform, not on Art Class Curator, because students end up on Art Class Curator. So we're not going to put it up there, but you'll get the show notes in the podcast. So okay, describe it. So you've already told us a little bit of the description, but tell us a little bit more about what we're seeing.
So the background of the entire it's a scene, it's a close-up of a scene with a dominatrix and her submissive. And there's this beautifully vibrant red wall, and she is sitting in what could be described as some sort of Asian inspired chair, or in this case, I would use the word throne.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And she's dressed in let's see this the blue is what she's dressed in, and it could be I think it's blue because you've got the black of the shoes, and it's a definite opposite, which is really funny because blue is my absolute favorite color in the world, and not really a color that dominatrixes wear. But the very first thing I domed in was a little blue frilly dress. So, but she has her thighs wrapped around this man's neck who is sitting on the floor in front of her. And he's not just sitting, he has his knees pulled to his chest, and he's got his hands down around his ankles, which I'm very jealous for because I'm not capable of that. But she's got his head pulled back to her and her legs wrapped around his neck and crossed. And what looks to be something that would be so painful is actually like you can see the relaxation and the comfort and the release in his eyes. He's naked, like he's just naked there with her.
Yeah, it looks like in the floor is like a
A
tile.
tile, yeah.
Yeah. The whole setting looks like it's really beautiful, and I love the contrast in the colors too.
Yes.
So the throne is just to add some a little bit more detail. It's like a golden or it's like a carved wood, but it has like some gold elements too. There's like a big cat's face, maybe it's a lion carved into the side with some like flowers, and it's got what looks to be a leather seat, and then it has those what are those little things called, like not grommets, I don't know, like the little bumps,
What you
like a
call them,
little
Gordon?
upholstery tacks or whatever, but they're like decorative.
Yes, they
I don't
are
know.
decorative upholstery tags.
Yeah, and then yeah, just kind of natural elements carved into the chair. Um, she's wearing like what are those called? Glove? They're not gloves because their fingers are showing, but like,
Well, if you're talking about video games, they're gauntlets. I I'm not sure what you would call them in everyday life because I don't have a pair, but they're definitely leather or latex, something shiny.
yeah.
And the fingers are bare there so that she can use her fingers to grab. But also the really cool thing about kink and BDSM is that the use of textures is really important
Mm.
as the sensory play and just getting to feel all of those sensations is a really big part of it.
Okay. So yeah, let's talk more about him. You talked about his look of relaxation, and I agree that he does look very relaxed. Like the way he's sitting is very like looks comfortable, even though he's on a probably cold hot tile floor. But his in his eyes, I'm seeing almost like he looks like he is crying or is about to cry. Um, but it's not. It doesn't look like a sad crying. It looks like one of those like um the feeling of like
Contentment.
yeah, it's like that you cry, you feel so good that you like cry a little. That's almost what it looks like to me. So
The
talk to
great,
me about what he might be feeling.
so yeah, a lot of men in our society feel like they can't be anything but a manly man,
Mm,
And so that's one reason why BDSM and kink is so taboo is because it goes against our standards for everyday life that some old white man somewhere told us was the standard.
hmm
And the fact of the matter is that every single one of us has a need to let go and release who we are at some point and just exist as ourselves. Mamas and doctors and lawyers and best friends and daddies and mommies, we all have that need to exist as just ourselves. And especially in people who have experienced childhood trauma, there is oftentimes an even greater need for those things. And sometimes that trauma is best healed through a situation like this, where you can completely give yourself over to somebody and accept, number one, that you're safe,
hmm
that you can trust them, that they're going to respect your boundaries and but also make you feel good. He's in pain. She's pulling his hair. That doesn't feel good, but it's pleasing her. And that aspect of getting to please her makes him happy. And that is reflective so much of how, we all struggle to make everyone happy. We're all people pleasers to a point.
hmm
And sometimes you just need that controlled environment to be able to let go and just exist for a minute.
Yeah.
And that's what he's doing. He's naked. He's naked on the floor. He is vulnerable. If she wanted to, she could really hurt him, but she's not gonna. She's not gonna. So he may be anxious he may have been anxious. He may have been, but he's not now. He is safe with her. And I've seen this same look a million times on my submissive. He comes to my door. We talk about his work for a minute and he's stressed. And then I put him on the bed and I simply restrain him. And all of a sudden, you can see his body just relax and all of that melts off. And a smile, like a real true smile, comes on
Mm,
his face. And this is him. This man here in this picture is every submissive that truly, truly feels it.
yeah. Oh, you know that what you were saying is ringing really true for me. I'm not like a hugger. You know, I don't like people to get too close to me. I don't like people to touch me. I just don't like it. And I was in some sort of therapy or coaching or something one time we were talking about it. And I was like, I feel like if I were to hug someone, I would start crying and never stop.
Hmm.
Like that's what it felt like that would
Hmm.
happen. And that was really eye-opening for me to realize that. Um, that probably what I needed is more hugs, to like more comforting, more soothing. And so when you do experience trauma or when you do have those things, it's like you spend so much of your life trying to control your emotions, control your surroundings, control everybody else around you,
Control
control
your
how,
reactions
yeah,
so that you can maintain everybody else's emotions.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so you live in that life of complete control, like getting a hug is like, oh, I'm gonna something I could be out of control, and that's not okay. So I'm gonna keep you
But it's
away from
so
me.
okay to be out of control.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
so okay. And the thing is that he's not in control in this moment. And that's what a lot of people are uncomfortable with when they look at something like this or they hear about BDSM or submissives. They think that he's not in control.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth of it is that he has all of the power. A
Because he can
dominant
stop it
always
at
he can
any
stop at
time.
any moment. As a dominant, she would have had to have sat with him and talked with him about the things that he absolutely will not do, the things that he could do with a little encouragement, the things that he loves, the things that would be rewards, or the things that would be punishments. You share so much with each other. I even ask people about any mental health issues because I don't want to trigger somebody
Oh yeah.
during a session or while I'm just speaking to them, daily. All of those things are discussed. So this man, it takes a very strong, whether it's man or woman in a submissive role, to be submissive to someone. It takes a lot of control. It takes a lot of bravery and courage to let go.
Hmm. Yeah. Oh, that's fascinating. So what about her in this picture? What are you noticing in the painting about her?
She knows who she is as a woman. She is sitting on this throne and she knows she deserves to sit on that throne. I deserve to sit on a throne. You deserve to sit on a throne too.
Mm-hmm.
Women are seen similarly but differently. We have to portray a certain look just like a man is supposed to in society.
Yeah.
Supposed to.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be soft and we're supposed to be feminine and we're supposed to be nurturers and caretakers and we're supposed to be the backbones of our families. But this woman isn't, she may be that. She may be all of that. But she's also someone who is in complete control of herself in this situation. And for me, I know how this feels. I grew up with childhood trauma. There are a lot of things that led me to a road where I feel out of control, or
Mm-hmm.
when I do feel out of control, I am very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But as a dominant, just with this woman here, she would have sat down and planned exactly what she was going to do this day. And right now, she is comfortable in her power because this submissive gave it to her. You know, I am fueled by my submissive in what I can and can't do, just like she is. And if she feels anything like I feel, that short amount of time where you're completely in control of a situation is so healing. Because the thing is that even if you plan something, and I write agendas, but even if something doesn't go as planned, I'm still in charge.
Yeah.
I'm still making all the decisions. So it's the same principle as what he needs, but it's just reflected in a different way. It's control, but it's also letting go.
Yeah. Yeah. It really makes me think, of, women we don't seem to be allowed to be aggressive or not, or be strong or be um,
Mm-mm.
fierce. So when
No,
those things
and
come
men
out,
especially do not like it.
yeah. Um, so when those things come out, we're judged for it. We're slandered for it. Or not slandered. What's the right word? I don't know. Shunned.
Slander
Slandered.
could be a
Maybe
word.
slander is the right word. um, but in this situation, she's allowed to like be fully embodied
She
in
can be
that.
fully herself. He can be fully himself, no matter what that means at the time. And it could change from day to day as to
Hmm.
what being yourself means and what you want to experiment with and how submissive or how dominant you want to be. I'm a
Hmm.
cuddler. I am a cuddler. So, it's totally dependent upon what the two of you need, but they're both sitting in their power right now.
Yeah.
Both.
Oh, that's so cool. I love just the way she's sitting she is just oozing confidence and just like,
Confidence and
oh,
sexuality and
yeah.
comfort. Like she's not having any qualms with the fact that she is pulling this man's hair. She is most definitely causing him some pain. She's probably a sadist like me. Uh, but she knows what he wants, and she's fulfilled by giving it to him.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, so what have you seen in your own life, um, like benefits from this, from before you started being a dom to now? Like how has it impacted your life?
So I may cry a little.
Okay.
Um, I met my submissive on Tinder last July of 2021.
Hmm.
And I had several several young men approach me wanting me to either top them sexually or to be their dom. And I'm like, what is going on? I am not a dom. What is this? And I actually had somebody message me that I almost considered doming for before I met my current submissive. And it just didn't feel right. I don't
Hmm.
know if the time wasn't right. I don't know if he wasn't right, but the universe was like, don't do it. So I told
Yeah.
him, I was like, look, I just don't feel comfortable. And then I met my current sub through Tinder because I had Tinder Gold. I don't have Tinder anymore. You cannot use kink words in your profile. They will ban you.
Oh.
Uh, so I had the profile and I had Tinder Gold so I could see who swiped on me. So there was this beautiful blonde haired, blue eyed boy. And I say boy, he's in his 30s, but I just felt it. I just felt that connection with him. And so I swiped on him and his profile said not vanilla. Now at that point, I really didn't know all of the BDSM lingo. So I messaged him and I was like, okay, not vanilla. What does that mean? Like, are we on the same shelf? Is that like down the street at a different store? What's the deal here? He's like a little spicy. Still didn't know what that meant, but I just ran with it. So I asked him, and I was like, what is it about my profile that people are picking this up? And he's like, it's because you said that you are a strong female personality. Like, well, okay, sure. So we talk for a week or so. We talked on the phone, we talked through text about likes and dislikes. He basically was helping me become who I am today. And I had just gotten out of a marriage that did not end well at
Hmm.
all. I was not helped a lot around the house. I had supported him for several years, and then he got a job, and suddenly he didn't want to help with anything around the house. I would beg. I begged for help, and I never got it. And so when this opportunity arose, I had been seeing a therapist for 3 years. And I texted her immediately thinking, oh God, she's going to be like, Lauren, what are you doing? Don't do this. And it was the total opposite. She said, do it, run with it. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Everyone
You're
knows but
supposed to
you at this
be,
point.
yeah, you're supposed to be about logic. You're supposed to tell me, no, this is crazy. Don't do it. And she didn't. And
Wow.
our first session was delayed, but 2 hours before we actually met in person for the first time, I sat down on the couch in my living room and it hit me that it was not my fault.
Mm.
Um, it wasn't my fault that my husband didn't want to help me do things, because here was this beautiful man willing to do anything I asked of him. Anything. I mean, like when he comes over, he sweeps and he mops first in order to earn my time. And he has a set of limits, and we work within those. If there's something that I want to try, I talk to him and he's like, yeah, that's fine. I'm not really into it, but I'm willing to try it for you. And the realization that it wasn't me was huge. I sobbed on the couch.
Mm.
I sobbed on the couch. I texted my therapist. She's like, thank God. I was like, oh. And it's been a constant process of learning my worth through BDSM. I have learned what I will and will not accept when it comes to how someone speaks to me. I know how some people will speak to me and respect me because I am a Dom, and I know how some people will talk to me and not respect me because I am a Dom. And it has really helped. It's really helped with my self-worth and learning that I am worthy of anything and everything that I want. But most of all, that it just wasn't my fault,
Mm.
that I couldn't have controlled that situation no matter how hard I had wanted to. And even
Yeah.
now, like, it's on a less serious note, it is a wonderful way to control that situation in a world where I don't feel like I have any control. The dopamine that I experience in that hour and a half, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, gosh, we both end up almost falling asleep at the end because our dopamine is just and we're
Yeah.
just so calm and relaxed. And that rides out for a few days. It's much better than any pill that I've ever taken for my anxiety.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a wonderful story. I guess I never really fully thought about um, BDSM at all. I mean, I never judged it, never thought anything about it because it just would
Yeah.
never cross my mind.
Most folks don't. I never would
Yeah,
have.
yeah,
I
but
never would have.
it's really fascinating to really think about the motives and what's actually happening, and
My relationship with my submissive is one of the most intimate that I have ever had.
yeah,
It can be one of the hardest relationships that I've ever had. Um, but most definitely, hands down, the most rewarding uh, type of relationship I've ever had in my life. I have learned more about myself. I have learned how to let go of what people think of me. I came
mm,
out publicly as a Dom and a sex coach, a sex coach in training a month or so ago, and it was a hard thing to do because it's not at all who I was prior to.
yeah,
But it has made me so much more comfortable with myself and with knowing that nobody else's opinions around me really matter except for what I think of me.
yeah. Oh, okay. So I have two threads that just split of things I want to ask you. Um, so right under Ghost Hunter, which I wrote before we were recording, and I'm going to write one of these so I don't forget. Um, sorry, ADHD 2. I will not remember if I don't
I
when
feel
that
you.
happens. Okay. So one of the things that when you were talking about your relationship with your sub and how it's the closest, most intimate relationship that you have, it made me really think how hard it is to be fully seen in this world. Like it's this natural thing we want deeply to be seen and to be heard and to be understood, but we're also deeply terrified to show people who we are, that it creates this sort of tension.
It's really hard to be vulnerable.
Yeah,
It's really hard. And I mean, there are a lot of people like my submissive outside of my bedroom is somebody totally different
yeah,
because he feels as though he can't. Like so many other people feel like they can't.
yeah.
And that's one reason why I did come out publicly. It's one reason why I was so excited to be on your podcast. It's why I have started my own podcast. It's why I have TikTok and Instagram. I don't want anybody, I don't want anybody to feel that way. We all cope in different ways. And if people saw BDSM for what it is like at the core and not just what they see in the media, it's really beautiful. It's a really beautiful thing. It can be abused just like any situation can be abused,
Yeah.
but when it's true, it's so beautiful.
Yeah. I love that. And I love that we live in a world where day to day, like it's getting more and more acceptable to talk about the things that are interesting to you
No
or
matter
the
what it
things
is,
about yourself.
yeah.
Yeah, like that we have communities for this. I was just I'm writing a book at the moment, and this morning I was writing about my social anxiety that I had in the past, and it was so hard to write about because at the time people didn't talk about anxiety. Like I didn't even know
Right.
it existed, and how am I supposed to know what's going on with me if it's not even a thing we talk about or know even exists.
Hmm.
I feel like our young people are so lucky right now that they have words
They
for all
are.
of this stuff. So good. Okay, so the other thing I wrote down was how did it go coming out to your family?
My parents knew pretty early on last year because my mom, um, she at that point still called me every day, which is fine. I love my mother. I would never
Mhm.
want her to not call me. We have slowed down on that to establish some of my own personal boundaries, which BDSM has taught me how to do. But she would call me. And so on the days that he was coming over, I would call her before he came over. And I'd be like, yeah, I've got a date tonight. So then finally, after like three times, she's like, man, this is going really well with this guy, right? Like, it's like, Mom, I need to tell you something. And so I told her, and she was, it was a shock, but she was okay. Now, a little more sensitive. My uncle, whom I love and adore, came across my Dom Facebook profile. And instead of stopping there, he continued to look through it. And I think he even looked at the friends that I had. And I had a local BDSM club that's here in town. And he then went to my TikTok, which, anybody who uses TikTok knows that a lot of those videos are just a bunch of bull crap and they're sounds that somebody did, and you're miming them to get views. I
Yeah.
wanted views for followers to monetize. And he listened to him and he called my mom very upset and was like, she's going to get killed.
Mm,
She's doing all of these things that she doesn't need to be doing. And my mom called me to tell me, and I was really hurt. I didn't I didn't plan to go public when I did. It was taken from me because
yeah.
I felt like I had to. So it didn't go well with them. I don't know what everybody else thinks, and I don't care
Yeah.
anymore. But that one hurt me. I made a post that just said, "Hey, this is who I am. This is what I'm doing. I understand if you're uncomfortable with it, you can unfollow me, unfriend me, do whatever you have to do." And his wife unfollowed, or she unfriended me. He
Mm,
didn't, but she did, and it hurt.
yeah.
But at the end of the day, I have to be authentic and true to myself and do what is best for me, and so does everybody else. And I don't think that I would have ever come to that realization had I had to do this any other way, but being forced to do it because somebody found it and took it in a way that it shouldn't have been taken.
Yeah. Oh, it really does call back in my mind to that piece about belonging. Have you ever read the work or seen his videos, Gabor Mate?
I don't think so, but it's possible.
Yeah, he does a lot of writing and research on ADHD,
Mm.
and he there is I watched it in a video. It could be in a book too, but he talks about how our basic needs when we're growing up, that we have this really like intrinsic need for belonging, and we have a really intrinsic need for authenticity, like that we need the belonging because you need to survive and the people around you keep you alive, and they
Mhm.
feed you and take care of you until you're able to do it yourself. But then you need the authenticity because you need to be able to recognize your body signals and intuition and know when you're unsafe and when you're safe. And so you have to be really in touch with your body and be who you are. But that a lot of people get stuck in this when their authenticity clashes up against their belonging, when who you are is not something that fits in.
Yes.
What happens then? And most people hide who they are because belonging always wins out. You have to survive. Um, and so, most of us don't really get to fully be authentic until we're 40 years old and we're like, fuck it.
Yep.
It's like,
Exactly.
like I'm not gonna hide this anymore. I'm just gonna be who I am as I am. Um, so I'm sorry that happened to you, that you didn't get to have that choice, but um, that's
Everything happens the way that it's supposed to.
yeah.
And I fully believe that. And it was hard, but I got through it. And, you know, the only thing I would ever want anybody to take away from that is not the hurt that I incurred, not any of that, but
Mm-hmm.
that I lived through it.
Yeah.
I woke up the next morning, the sun came up, everything went on like normal. And the fact of the matter was is that a lot of the people in your life that are going to be upset are probably not people that are in your life daily anyways.
Yeah.
That's not always true, but I had not even heard from him through text in probably a year and a half, you know.
Yeah.
I know that he loves me and I know where his concern came from, but it
Mm-hmm.
also came from a place of ignorance
Yeah.
because he has no understanding of what this is. And I'm not out at kinky sex clubs. Like that's illegal to do things in public. Like I don't know, it's
Oh, good to
illegal.
know. If any of the listeners are considering.
Don't do it. I know some places have workplaces and clubs where you can do things, and but that's not where I'm at. I'm at home, so it's hard because you know that they don't understand and you want them to understand, but you also know that some people are just never going to understand, and it's better to just walk away from it.
Yeah. Okay. What a powerful story you have. So let's let's go back into the painting and see if there's anything that you're noticing now that either you didn't notice before or that you want to comment on, or anything that is coming to mind from the artwork.
Well, one thing that I really do love about it is the juxtaposition between that vibrant red
Mm-hmm.
and the rest of the painting. It's not the rest of the painting is subdued. It's not that it's, less than this one little piece of red. It's not even a huge piece of
Yeah.
red. But what that red represents is the passion behind every piece, every minute, every action, the passion behind it. I have so much passion for BDSM, for good sex, safe sex, healthy sex. That red is what I am. That red is what I feel on a daily basis. Like she nailed it. She nailed it. That and it's against the wall. Like it's on the wall. It's the wall is red. And to me, that kind of makes it feel like here you are entrapped in your passions. And here are these two people. They're not entrapped in their passions. They're not surrounded by their passions, but unable to express them. It's almost like they're in this box because we all get put in boxes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we put ourselves in boxes because boxes feel comfortable, four walls,
Yeah.
right?
Safe.
But they're in their box, but they're in their box. And when they're in their box with this passion and this fiery red in their bellies, like it's a whole different world.
Yeah.
It's a whole different world. It's a whole different level of comfort. And if you look at the chair, just thinking about how hard that chair is, I know that chair is not comfortable. And as a big girl, I know that those little things on the side are going to dig into my thighs.
Yep.
But she is comfortable there because she's comfortable in this environment where if she sat down in that chair in any other way, in any other place, she probably wouldn't feel as comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But she is because of where she is and what she's doing and who she's with.
Yeah. I love, yeah, that red is just so luscious. The whole
Oh my
scene
gosh,
is,
it's like almost like a candy apple, like,
yeah,
but like on steroids.
yeah. And I also noticed while you were talking about, them being in their box, is how cropped the artwork is. It is so
Yes.
close in. We don't see his feet. His hands are cut off, his bottom is cut off, a little bit of his back. We don't see her head or her um, left hand at all. Like it's really close in, which then adds, I think, to that feeling of intimacy that it's just them
Mhm.
together. They're
And also to me that points to he is the star of the show. He's
yeah,
the whole reason they're there.
yeah,
If I didn't have a submissive, I wouldn't be a dominant.
yeah. Her whole attention is on him.
It's on him. She couldn't be in that painting if he wasn't there.
Hmm.
She is not the main character in this story.
Wow.
She's the one that will speak up. She's the one that'll make rules. She's the one that'll spank him and tie him down and do whatever other fun things they decide to do together, but it's only because he says it's okay.
Yeah.
And that's the funny thing about the view of men who are submissive. My ex-boyfriend told me, your submissive is not a man because he is submissive to you. He's not my boyfriend anymore.
Hmm.
Um, but my submissive is so brave and so strong that he can express who he is, even if it's for a short period of time, even if it's not for everybody. He has the braveness to let go and let me do what I want because it's just as healing for him as it is for me.
Yeah. Okay. Question just popped in my head. And it may be completely ignorant, but I really can't. I haven't quite figured out how I can't get there. So I can see how, for a man to be the submissive, I can see how healing that would be. I can see how it would even be healing for a woman to be a submissive. I can see how it would be healing for a woman to be a dom. When I think about a man being a dom, all of a sudden I'm like, nope, I don't see it. Well, tell me about that.
Is
Do
that
you see what I mean?
because you already see men as
Yeah.
the rulers
Uh
of
huh.
society and the
Yep.
rule makers? Yeah, it's because of your viewpoint on the societal role of men.
Yeah. It's my
You
page.
don't,
It's the
and it may
patriarchy.
not be as healing for some people as it is for others. I know a Dom, I have a Dom myself. I'm a switch, actually.
Okay.
I have a Dom, and he considers himself a pleasure Dom. He wants to give pleasure to women. And so for him, in some way, shape, or form, giving that pleasure does something for him on a very deep level. It's not something that he and I have discussed.
Yeah.
But if you look at those situations, if you really dive into each person's stories, there's always, I would say there's a 97% chance. There's always going to be something there that this act is helping to refill inside themselves.
Yeah.
It may not all be the same, it may not be comparable, but there's something. And but the difference is that number one, female dominants are extremely rare. As far as I know, there's not very many in my area that are
Hmm.
out publicly. Whereas male dominants are usually what you see in pornography and
Yeah.
in movies. That's what you see, and it looks very degrading for the woman. And the fact of the matter is that it still is that they don't have the power the submissive does. But I'm sure I would have to ask a male dom. I don't have a lot of male doms as friends, but I would have to
Yeah.
ask one and say, hey, what is it that you get from it? And I'm sure that there is that piece there. But because we already see men in a role of authority, I don't think we question that.
Yeah. I when you said pleasure dom, that made me see kind of how it could be um different than what I was imagining because there's the giving pleasure and then there's like the strict, spanking type of thing. And so I guess I'm just
There's so many different
So
types of
many different versions. Yeah.
There's so many different types of submissives. I am more of a soft dom in that I am very nurturing and caring, and
Hmm.
I want to make sure that my submissives are drinking plenty of water and making sure they're eating their meals. I also do have that hard dom side. I love to spank. Spanking is very therapeutic for me. It's a wonderful way to get out any pent up stress or aggression on someone who is loving receiving it. I also love to be spanked. That is also very healing for me and allows me an outlet to let go of everything that I'm holding inside. And I'm
Yeah.
sure that it's the same for a male, but like I said, I'm sure it's just that we haven't thought to question that.
Yeah. It's just the layers of our being in our society. And it's so, oh, it's my favorite thing to talk about. Well, this is why I do this podcast because it's all about understanding people better. Oh, that's, sorry. I've got, my mind is going like 7,000 miles a minute suddenly. So I just need to calm it
Totally fine.
down.
Totally
So,
fine. This is
like,
normal.
I'm
This is
learning
normal.
so much, and I love to think about psychology. So now I'm deep in psychology in
There's
my head.
so
So I
much
need,
psychology
yeah, there is
behind
so
BDSM.
much. Yeah, yeah. So oh, that makes me think of. So I have read 50 Shades. Well, I've read the first book. Is that like an accurate portrayal of? Or
So
is that
that's
questioned
that's
in the?
actually the first thing. Well, not the first thing, not the first introduction to kink, but that was one of my main introductions to kink. And so I came in. I didn't watch it when it first came out. I didn't read it when it first came out. It
Yeah,
was much later. And apparently, a lot of people in the kink community hate that movie because it's not an accurate portrayal.
yeah.
It may be for somebody somewhere. For me, it's not. Now, my submissive does have a set of rules. He's a little bit more lax with them because we have been in this DS relationship, dominant submissive, for so long that his rules are a little bit more laxed. Um, but he still has rules to follow. He still has things he has to do every day for me. And totally forgot where I was going with that.
You started with 50 Shades.
Oh yeah. So some of it, yes, some of it is probably very accurate. For me, it's, there's some things in there. Sure. I don't have a red room. I wish I had a red room. I don't have a red room. There is a show on TV on Netflix called How to Build a Sex Room that I do love to watch, and I do
It's a
plan
good
to have
show.
one. But
I've
it's
seen
not
that show.
something every dominant has. I just have a really pretty bedroom, and then I have a kink cabinet in my closet.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say that it's everybody's accurate portrayal, no,
Okay.
because everybody is so different. I mean, you have submissives that are general submissives and maybe are experimentalists, or maybe they're really into being adult babies, or maybe they're really into golden showers, or maybe they like being sissies. Like I have a lot of submissives that approach me that are sissy males. They're not in real life, but
Uh,
behind closed doors, they want to be that sissy male. I am a dom that doesn't really have a specific niche. I would consider myself a soft dom, but an experimentalist. Like I want to try everything at least twice. At least twice. And yeah, so it just depends on the person. I'm
yeah.
not gonna knock it because it's how I learned and it got me interested, so I can't be mad at it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I bet it did. It was a gateway for
Hmm.
a lot of people. Okay. All right. So, looking at the time. Um Anything you feel left unsaid from the artwork?
I just can't wait for everybody to see this piece of art.
Yeah.
I can't wait for them to hear these words and see this art and hopefully be able to see this man in the light that I see him and not the light that everyone else will see him. They see him as weak and they see
Mhm.
him as being controlled and they see this woman as probably a harsh female. And it's just not the case at all. He's not scared. He's not being held captive. He could look at he's a fairly thin man. You can see the definition in his muscles. He's not a weak man.
Mhm.
Physically, he's not weak, but he is allowing her to have him, just to have him. He is hers.
Yeah.
He is hers at his very core. And I just hope that everybody can look at this and hear this and see that instead of seeing what they're trained to see.
Yeah. I am so grateful for you coming on here. I'm so grateful that you chose this one because you really did change my view of it. I had, I think when I don't spend a lot of time looking at them before the episode because I want it just to come in fresh.
Right.
But I think I would have seen him more as like, as weak or, something
Oh
like
my
that. And
gosh.
I think I would have.
It takes so much strength, especially to be able, well, to just trust that somebody is going to have your best interests in
Yeah.
mind, to trust that somebody is going to be truthful with you, is going to be safe with you. We have safe words. But I mean, my submissive bends over on my bed anytime I ask him to, and I spank him, and he has red marks and he has bruises. But he trusts me that I'm not going to
Yeah.
hurt him to the point that it's permanent, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And that's deep.
Yeah.
That's deep. And it's hard. It's not hard to sit there and I mean, it's not easy to sit there and spanked, you know? It's not an
Yeah.
easy thing to do.
Oh, well, that was wonderful. I think that was a really good stopping place. Um, Although I do have to say one thing completely unrelated is that he looks just like Barty Crouch from Harry Potter.
He does. He just needs a bowler hat.
I know. He's been Barty Crouch for a good 30 minutes, but I didn't want to ruin the conversation by saying this is Barty Crouch.
I knew he looked familiar, but I didn't have anything to compare it to. So I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, it's just a
Barty Crouch
man. But now
Senior.
that you said it, I
Yep.
cannot unsee it.
Yeah.
This is somewhere in the ministry of magic.
Yeah.
This is happening right now.
If only the Dom was in pink, and that could have been
Right. Oh my gosh.
what's her face? Why can't I think of her name suddenly?
I can't either, but it's
Dolores
fine.
Umbridge.
Oh.
Yeah. Anywho, okay. So tell our listeners where they can engage with your work online. I know you mentioned TikTok and your podcast and those sort of things.
I'm on TikTok and Instagram as the Taylor Posey, TheTaylorPosey. And my podcast is Taylor Posey's All Tied Up. Right now, it's just on Anchor. I don't have enough podcasts out there to be searchable, but I'm working on that this week. So hopefully in the next week or two, it'll be searchable on all major platforms.
Wonderful. And we will link to all of those things on the show notes. So even if you can't search for it, I will find the Anchor link so we can make sure that at least that one is on there. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here and get to talk about something that I love so much. Is I would never say no.
Awesome. And I don't feel like I was awkward at all. I think
you weren't. You did.
I know.
So
I was totally fine.
You're a good girl.
Totally fine.
You're a good
Thanks.
girl.
All right. There was my conversation with Taylor Posey. Loved it. Loved every second of it. And as I mentioned in the episode, the show notes are going to be just on your podcast player. That's where we'll put the links. I'm also working on setting up the show notes over at artandself.com. So soon, if not already, you will find those show notes there as well. And lastly, we are starting a brand new feature here at Art and Self, and that is the opportunity to submit messages and interpretations that you had about the works of art that we discuss. Because we know that when you show a work of art to anyone, that work of art is going to have new and different interpretations depending on who's looking at it, depending on what happened in your life, depending on all sorts of things, which culture you identify with, what gender you identify with, where you were raised, what your parents were like. There's so many factors that go into our interpretation of art. And we would love to hear about it. So I invite you to send me a voice recording, and I have 3 ways for you to do that. So I'll tell you those in just a minute. But in that voice recording, tell us who you are, where you're from, which artwork you are responding to and which episode it was a part of. And then let us know what really spoke to you in the artwork. What personal connection did you find? Did you look at it differently than we did? Is there something we really missed that is something that you really focused on? I would absolutely love to hear that. And I have my first one to share with you here in a minute. But before I do that, I'm going to tell you how to send this to me. So I have 3 different ways. And hopefully that doesn't make it too complicated for you, but I want to make it as easy as possible for you to submit these stories. So the first way is to leave a voicemail at the phone number 202 996 7972. We don't answer that phone line regularly, so we do respond to the voicemail, so you're not going to have to worry about anybody answering. But just call and just say, hey, I'm leaving this voicemail for this purpose, and then we'll take it from there. Please let us know how to contact you as well with your email address. That would be amazing. And then the second option is to send me a Voxer message. I love to use Voxer with my coaching clients, as well as with coaches that I have, as well as with a few friends. It's a great tool, and it's kind of like a walkie-talkie type of situation. So you can find me on Voxer at Cindy Ingram, no spaces, CindyIngram. Please only send your message and via audio, and then don't reach out to me on Voxer for any other reason. Like if you need tech support for any of my programs or anything like that, I won't respond to those types of messages. This is just for the podcast stories. And then the last way is to just record a voice memo on your phone. I know on an Apple it's called voice memo. I don't know what it's called on any other device, but you just record it and then email it to me at cindy@artclasscurator.com. So those are your 3 different ways to send your recording to me, and I cannot wait to hear your thoughts and feelings about the art and things that you are noticing. And we're going to start with one that inspired this idea, and that is from Madeline. You've heard her on the podcast before. We've interpreted a lot of art together in the past, but she also writes the show notes. And she sent me this Voxer after she listened to the episode with Megan Winkler, because like I said in that Voxer, the Art and Self-Connection Circle had a completely different interpretation of the painting. And so she also felt the same way. So I thought it'd be fun to share what she thought and what she saw in the artwork, and as an inspiration for the types of things that you can share with me in your voice memos. So here is what Madeline Gregory had to say about Looking Back by Eric Johansson that I spoke with Megan Winkler about in the last episode.
Okay, so like I'm doing the show notes now, and I was like listening back to the podcast because I hadn't gotten to listen to all of it. And I am so glad that at the end you were like, so like in the circle, somebody else noticed this, because oh my god, that I was like screaming it the whole time that you were talking about the artwork. I was like, okay, like there are other interpretations, let it go. But yeah, I immediately saw her as like being like pulled back to a place, like she was like getting pushed back there, but like I didn't like, to me it was almost like a memory, like it was like the like a trauma response or something, or like a scent memory or something like that, where like she's just, you know, sitting there walking down the street or doing whatever in her normal life, and then like she got rushed back to this time and this place, and like she's just trying to like get her feet underneath her, and she can't because of like the response she is having in her brain. Or maybe like she was here and she's like getting pulled away. But yeah, to me it was very much like about like either a memory or anxiety or trauma or like something like that. Anyway, just had to say that.
Okay, so that was just Madeline's message to me, her friend, talking about the art. So I would love for you to share yours, remembering to say your name and where you're from and the personal connection and interpretation that you found in the artwork. Maybe it reminds you of a story from your life or anything like that. So to recap, you can send me a voicemail, you can send me an email with a voice memo, or you can send me a Voxer message. So we will include those 3 bits of information in the show notes so that you can, if you're driving and you didn't get to write down the phone number or the email, we will include that in the show notes. Thank you so much in advance for sharing your beautiful insights about the artwork, and I will see you again next week. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for listening to Art and Self, and if you loved what you heard, please consider leaving me a rating or a review on iTunes, and share this episode with one friend who you know needs to hear what we talked about today. You will find links to the artworks that we discuss over at the show notes, and you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Cindy Needs Art. Thank you so much for listening, and have a wonderful week. I'll see you next time.